Assalamualaikum. We are from JBC 2514H. We would like to present a movie critique about Marshall. This movie was published in 2017. My name is Nur Khaida Shafia binti Abdullah.
My name is Nur Syara Shaza binti Zaharin.
And I'm Nashakira Amni binti Muhammad Sabri.
Okay, so this story was set in 1940 and is about Thurgood Marshall, a young lawyer for the NAACP who crisscrosses the country defending innocent African Americans from unjust indictments in court. So his latest case is in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where an African American chauffeur is accused of rape of a wealthy white society woman.
To admit Marshall into the local bar, insurance lawyer Sam Friedman speaks over his objection to the introduction in court. However, Friedman's commitment changed drastically when the racist judge forbids Marshall to speak in court, which is forcing Friedman to act as lead counsel.
Now, in an intolerable situation for the pair, Marshall must guide his new compatriot through this criminal trial even as Friedman endures not only this unfamiliar area of law, but also the bigoted pressure he now must share. However, the case proved more complex than either anticipates, with unexpected twists and turns even as it becomes a vital one that would define two careers as well as the fight for justice in America. Now, we move to the critical incidents.
Good morning, Mr. Marshall.
Good morning.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Critical incident 1 is petty communication. Petty communication refers to verbal or non-verbal communication with a social purpose, which is intended to start the conversation, to welcome somebody, or to say goodbye instead of to provide information. Thus, petty communication happens when the secretary says, "Good morning, Mr. Marshall," and Marshall replies with a "good morning." Then, the secretary gives Marshall a copy of newspaper while saying "welcome back," in which Marshall said "thank you." This shows that both secretary and Marshall have a good bond as a co-worker in the workplace. Based on communication theories, it is important to engage in a small talk as it will show concern towards another. This will make Marshall feel welcomed by his co-worker upon his return. Thus, he might be comfortable to start his usual work at the office. From this situation, I would recommend Marshall to stop walking and have an eye contact when communicate small talk with the secretary rather than walking straight to the Walters office. It can show how the respect can be applied towards others. To be concluded, petty communication performs important function of establishing, maintaining, and managing bonds of society between co-workers.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
No, you may not. Court has heard enough and will rule. Mr. Marshall may sit at counsel table. However, he may not speak.
Your Honor, I must
He
speak
may
for the
not
client.
speak, argue, or examine witnesses. If he violates this ruling, he will be held in contempt of court. And you as well, Mr. Friedman. You will conduct this case.
Me?
Yes, you.
Critical incident is racism and unfairness, which involves treating someone unfavorably because of a certain race. This incident can be seen from James Cromwell, who plays the horrible Judge Foster, because he reveals unfairness and unprofessional behavior between judge and attorney that should not be in the courtroom. Now, in an intolerable situation for the pair, Marshall must guide his new compatriot through this criminal trial, even as Friedman endure not only this unfamiliar area of law. So the effect of the incident is that Judge Foster's comment will cause unfair treatment, and he was being racist to Marshall in the court just because he was a black man. Even though Marshall being treated unfairly by the judge and others, Marshall did not give up on his client and he still want to defend him. So my recommendation regarding this incident is that as a person who beat and work for the law, being fair is the first priority. All judges in the country have and will improve their basic judgment quality. This is very crucial in the effort of judiciary to seek a positive public perception of the judges and others. We also need to treat people fairly and not being prejudiced because all the people are the human beings and we are same. So what we can learn from this video excerpt is the importance of work ethic, communication, and personality in the workplace. We must remember that when interacting professionally, we must be very patient in hearing court cases with an open mind and without being prejudiced to any group.
What time did you pull over Mr. Spell?
Did you hear the question?
3:37 a.m., according to my notes.
Why'd you stop him?
Didn't look like a man like that would drive that car.
Was anyone with him in the car?
No. He was alone.
You're willing to testify to that in court?
If I have to.
I want to get a sworn statement from Officer McCoy, then escort him out.
The third critical incident in this movie is turn taking. Turn taking means that you have to wait for your turn to speak up and do not interrupt the others to show some respect and show that you are listening to them in a workplace. The analysis of incident. Marshall asked the cop, Officer McCoy, the time he pulls over Joseph Spell on the day the criminal case occurred, and he gave the exact time according to his note. Friedman then further asked McCoy on the reason why he stopped Joseph Spell. He answered honestly that it did not look like a man like him, which is referring to Mr. Spell, would drive that luxurious car. From the video excerpt, we can see that Marshall gave head nods to signal Friedman for his turn to ask the question to McCoy, which shows that Friedman waited for his turn to speak up, and he did not interrupt the conversation between Marshall and McCoy. The effect from this critical incident is, by waiting for their turn to speak and avoiding interrupting another person, they do not only show their desire to work together, but they also show respect toward each other as a colleague. The recommendation for this critical incident is they need to be a good listener for others while waiting for their turn to speak, in which the conversation will be seen as relevant and not out of topics. In conclusion, it is very important to practice taking turns every time they converse so that the message that is delivered can be clearly understood by the other person. Turn taking is an important skill to develop in order to effectively participate in social communication. If they are not able to take turns during interaction, they may interrupt the other person who is speaking or may not actively listen.
If you want your freedom, you're going to have to fight for it. You don't have to fight alone. That's why I'm here. We've got weapons now, Joseph. Our people do. Weapons we didn't have before. We've got the law.
You really think we can win?
I wouldn't be here if I didn't think we could win.
Critical incident is fight for justice, which is to keep everything in a society fair according to the society's rule. This can be seen when Marshall reveals the positive vibe when he was trying so hard in establishing the truth because he believed that his client Joseph Spell is innocent. So the high confidence to win in which Marshall show make their client believe that they will win the fight. So the effect of this incident is that Marshall's comment will increase the confidence level of his client to fight back to get his freedom. In addition, Marshall and Sam agree to cooperate in defending him, whereas the probability to win the fight and expose the truth. So my recommendation regarding this incident is that they must work with others instead of going against each other in order to be productive. So in this video excerpt, we are taught in United we stand, divided we fall. We want people to be fully aware of the expert legal and advice that is available to them should a situation occur like Marshall and Sam did. This video excerpt highlights the importance of cooperation, confidence, healthy environment, and patience in achieving for fighting for justice. We can conclude that all these aspects of communication do not only impact our relationship with colleagues but also teach us to work effectively. We must remember that when working together or if there is cooperation in work, the target to achieve a common goal will be successful.
That in my courtroom, Mr. Friedman.
Of course, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
Hello.
Hey, baby. No, they just pulled me out of proceedings. I was supposed to...
Baby. Didn't make it. And it was so much worse this time, the bleeding. Just... It wouldn't stop.
I'm so sorry. Buster. Buster, are you there?
Yeah. I'm here. Where are you?
Do you have any further questions, Mr. Friedman?
How do we fight against that?
You asked the exact question Willis wanted you to ask. What were you thinking?
Where the hell were you? Getting instructions from Walter White?
See what happens when I don't hold your hand? You panic up there like an amateur.
You should have let him take the deal.
The other critical incident in this movie is unprofessionalism. Unprofessionalism means not being a profession at work. For example, like bringing your own personal issue at your workplace that will bother and distract you from focusing on your work. The analysis of incident. Mr. Marshall reveals professional behavior at the workplace by stepping out to make a personal call, and he keeps the conversation short with his wife. However, the news that he had received from his wife has caused him lost attention and caused a misunderstanding among colleagues, which is making it worse for them to work together. The effect from this critical incident is Mr. Marshall's behavior will cause a bad term between colleague, Sam, and make it hard for them to work together in defending their accused client. This is because Mr. Marshall cannot focus on his work and he kept thinking about what happened to his wife. He was so disappointed for not being able with his wife on that day. The recommendation for this critical incident is the discussion should always focus on the issue at hand, which is reflect professionalism in handling personal matters at work. You should know how to deal with personal issues. If possible, try to keep your private life separate from your work life. Eventually, one may begin to run into the other. It means that do not bring your personal issue at your workplace. Be professional by showing that you can handle and control it by yourself. In conclusion, there is so much that we can learn from this video excerpt in terms of professional and unprofessional behavior in the workplace. This video excerpt highlights the importance of work ethics and professionalism in the workplace. We can conclude that all these aspects of professionalism do not only impact our workplace surroundings, but also teach us to deal with personal matters at work. We must learn how to keep personal issues from negatively affecting your job and career.
I had no reason to believe that I wasn't alone. But then... he was there.
You were attracted to Joseph, weren't you, Mrs. Strubing?
Objection! That's an absurd accusation.
You invited him into your bed, didn't you?
Your Honor.
He attacked me!
Strike the question and answer from the record. Mr. Friedman, no more of this. You understand me?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
This last critical incident are work ethics. Work ethics is the ability to uphold correct moral principle in the workplace. This mindset affects how a person does his or her work with a high moral standard. Based on the video excerpt, Friedman reveals an unprofessional behavior in the workplace as he did not conduct himself professionally as an attorney. It happened when Friedman asked, "You were attracted to Mr. Joseph, weren't you, Mrs. Strabing?" Mrs. Strabing defended herself by striking Mr. Friedman's question with, "He's attacked me." Based on communication theories, it is inappropriate when the attorney is resulting personal attack and crossing the line into comments and suggestions that are insulting or hostile. It is considered a bully in which is disliked by a judge or jury. In this situation, this Friedman question which in form will cause embarrassment in the plaintiff, which is Mr. Strabing, may unfairly lead her to behave that the impression produced by her statement does not do justice on her real testimonial value. I will advise that Friedman should ask only the question that Mrs. Strabing can answer from the record that has been satisfied. He also needs to have a good technique in asking the question that will make her trap or admit something of what he wants her to admit instead. To be concluded, for this incident, Friedman needs to have a good work ethic and choose other appropriate question to ask Mrs. Strabing.